That's not my address.
I'm sorry?
That's not my address. It's the address where I work.
Okay, in Tampa, Florida?
Right.
Yeah, and you had heard about us through Sporting News.
I've never heard of you. What do you do besides call people up and ask them how they are?
Well, we're an online information sports service through a computer and a modem.
You're an online information sports service. What kind of information?
Scores, weather, injuries, stats, so forth.
Scores?
Mm-hmm. Scores and progress.
I can get them, from CNN, can I? And I'm not so morbid that I would want to know about injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I possibly want your service?
Well, someone had called and put in your name. I guess it was a joke or something. I don't know, but...
Why would anybody want your service? I can well understand why I wouldn't, but why would anybody? You sit home and see who's injured on your computer screen?
What's that, sir?
To sit there and see who's injured on your computer screen?
Well, there's an injury list, yes, sir.
I'm into computers. I'm into databases and this kind of stuff, but I can't begin to conceive of sitting down after a nice meal. Hey, honey, I'll be in and watch the television with you in about a half hour, so I'm going to call up and see who's injured.
Okay.
Good grief. That sounds really sick, man.
Yeah.
You guys make a living doing this stuff?
Yes, sir.
How many people buy this kind of crap from you?
Well, it's just not that. It's with team and individual stats, matchups, the line from the stardust, and so forth.
Even a lot of couch potatoes that live their lives through athletes in far-off corners of the country subscribe to this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the sickos.
A lot of sports nuts.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you for your time.
Well, okay. Bye. 25 minutes at the hour of 12 noon.
Lassiter, News Radio 970, WSLA.
Oh, my. It's a Tuesday, January the 31st, 1989. Damn, I made some strawberry ice cream last night. It didn't quite come out right. It's not quite sweet enough. It's been years since I've made ice cream. I'm just trying to get back into it now. But you guys didn't come here to hear about my ice cream. No. This is going to be a no-nonsense, down-to-business kind of show. You might even want to start dialing as we speak to, basically keep the phone solicitors out. 990-9352 in Hillsborough. Or do you enjoy the phone solicitors? We never really stopped to ask you guys if you enjoy when we put people on the air who are calling up trying to sell me something. I don't know. 990-9352 in Hillsborough, 461-9352 in Pinellas. A couple of things I want to get to before we get down to business here. I know a lot of you guys are weenies out there. I can't sit on hold and wait to talk to Lassiter. So I have decided, it was suggested to me, and I have decided that what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a box here in the studio. And on days when I just really don't feel like dealing with you people, or you don't feel like dealing with me, as the case may be, we're going to dip into this box, and it's going to be a situation where you write in and make an appointment, okay? People tell me, well, gee, gosh, I can't sit there on hold for a half hour or something like that to talk to you. Great. Tell me what you want to talk about. Give me your phone number. Give me the hours that, it's best to reach you. I'll keep it in a box here. When I don't feel like dealing with the bozos on the phone, we'll dip into the box and deal with the bozos who write in, and we'll call you and put you on the air, and, you won't even have to wait or anything. So, and I'm deadly serious, too. I'm serious. So just, whatever your beef is, just put it down on a piece of paper and send it to me here at the radio station, 801 East Jackson, Tampa, 33602. Other thing I wanted to mention to you, I don't want to dwell upon. By the way, make it out, since you're all weenies who can't hold on, make it out to the hot dog club. Then we'll know what you're talking about. I don't really want to dwell upon this, but I do again want to remind you, if you wanted to take part in the memorial fund, in the scholarship fund that's being set up for Dick Norman's memory, please don't hesitate. Do it while you think of it. Make a check out to the Dick Norman Memorial Fund, care of 970 WFLA, 801 East Tampa, 33602. Please, if you're going to, don't put it off. Do it today. But this is what I want to talk to you about. Obviously, the situation of last week is a little bit closer to some of us here than it might be to some of you out there. And when you know somebody that suddenly ups and dies on you, it frequently makes you sit down and do a little bit of reflection on your own life, some introspection, some retrospection, which is kind of what I've been going through for the last several days, thinking about all kinds of weird, wild, wonderful things, all kinds of horrible things, too. But I've been thinking about just where all this leads, life, that is, and what I like about it and what I don't like about it, and some of the things that I might want to try to change, and some of the things that I might want to try to improve upon, and whatever it might work out to be, which is, in essence, what leads me to what I want to talk to you guys about today. Nothing quite so personal, perhaps, but I want you to talk to me about the times that we do live in, some very strange times. I would like very much, and I'm serious, I would like very much if you would tell me one thing that you like about the times that we live in and one thing that you don't like about the times that we live in. Simple as that, relatively simple, I would think, wouldn't you? A no-nonsense, down-to-business, down-to-earth show, is what I believe I told you we would be doing. One thing that you like, one thing that you don't like about the times that you find yourself living in. I'll even give you the telephone numbers. My God, how good I am to this audience. 990-9352 in Hillsborough, 990-WFLA. In Pinellas, 461-9352, 461-WFLA. 29 minutes after the hour of 12 noon.
Introducing Riata by Buick.
Open. It's in Hillsborough, 990-9352, 990-WFLA. Tampa, hi, you're on the air. Talk to me.
I think what makes me happy about life is kind of just a momentary thing. I mean, right now I'm very fortunate. I have a good job. I have a lovely family. Thanks to you and Dick, I'm now what I consider a thinking type person. What I don't like about it is I think I and the rest of us are living in a bubble that is going to burst any day now. Or maybe not any day, but I mean this, you know, the deficit and the drug problem and the issue you were talking about yesterday with the bailout of the banks. I guess I'm a victim of the circumstances. It's great now, and it's wonderful and rah-rah, but one of these days we're going to have to pay the piper and face up to it. And, you guys have done at least a job with me, and I know some other people that I work with and talk to and associate with that you've gotten us to think about it, and I don't know what the hell we can do about it, but at least we're thinking about it.
So the things that you like the best about the times that you live in are personal? Yeah. Reasonable, I suppose. I mean, what the hell, we all live in our own little worlds, don't we?
Well, I mean, you have your new car and your computer and apparently a good relationship with Mary and so forth, and I don't consider you selfish for that. You obviously enjoy it. You work hard for it. And I work hard for the things that I have.
Okay. Hello, Tampa.
Yes, Bob.
Go ahead.
Yes, I tuned it up late and I didn't know whether this was an open discussion, open forum or anything. But there's something that I have in mind that bothers me. I've been thinking of way back. I think it was last week you had a show and you were talking about...
Wait a second. I could have sworn. I'm positive I had mentioned very clearly today that we're talking about the times that we live in, what you like about them and what you don't like about them. I'm positive that's what I had said.
Oh, well, you probably said that. What I said, I tuned up late, so I did not hear that.
Oh, I see. You just feel as though you just call in anytime you want and chat about anything you want to chat about. Well, gee, go right ahead.
No, I didn't mean it that way, Bob.
No problem. Go right ahead.
Okay. Well, if I had to discuss what you were talking about, what I like and what I don't like.
Uh-huh.
One of the things that first, let me say what I don't like. What I don't like is in America, where everybody seems to think this is the city of gold, that is where everybody can make it. And to see in 21st century, and we have people who live here and still don't have water inside their home, don't have lavatory inside their home, people still living on the street.
Well, there may be, but that doesn't take away from the fact that this is the place where you can make it.
Oh yes,
this is the land of opportunity, my friend.
I know it is, but I also think that while it is the land of opportunity, I think the many people who are able and capable to do are still not doing enough.
What's that mean?
Well, it means we're not doing enough to help the people who are by far less fortunate than we are.
Well, what would you like to do?
If I could do anything, I would love to do something to help those people.
Well, that doesn't tell me anything. How much money are you willing to put out of your pocket for this? How much money are you willing to spend?
I cannot answer that question.
How much money are you willing to spend to help these people? How much? There are roughly 37 million people in this country who are considered to be living in poverty, can't afford, for example, their own medical insurance. How much money are you willing to take out of your pocket to help these people? 37 million of them.
Now, if 37 million people...
Just give me a figure. How much money are you willing to spend to help these people?
Okay, Bob, if you are raising a campaign and ask for everybody to contribute, I'm willing to give $100.
$100? You are willing... Okay, $100, by the way, would just barely be enough money on a per capita basis to provide medical insurance for the 37 million. But that does nothing else for them, and you're willing to come up with a whopping $100.
But that is true. But what are they doing? What are they getting now?
Well, that has nothing to do with. That has nothing to do with what I asked you, sir.
Oh,
you want to help all of these people out, but you have no idea what it's going to cost.
No.
And where the hell is this money supposed to come from? I mean, do you realize $100? Do you appreciate that? Let's say a family of 5 that had to kick in an additional $500 a year to provide medical insurance for people who can't afford medical insurance. That family, that $500 might be the difference between them being above or below the poverty level?
Bob, that can be very well true. But the point that I think you're missing here is that while now no one is doing anything...
Oh, no, wait a second. I'm not missing any points at all, sir.
Okay.
I mean, please don't be so presumptuous as to assume that I don't understand what you're saying. What I'm saying to you is I don't think you're thinking about what you're saying. It's really nice to say, boy, we should all help. Gosh, golly gum, wouldn't it be great? And I'll be the first one, and so forth and so on. But it is such a monumental task that it's not a matter of helping the homeless. It's not a matter of helping the people in poverty. It's a matter of where the hell's the money going to come from. It's a matter of totally changing this nation's priorities. And before you sit down and start talking about, well, gee, I think we ought to build shelters for the homeless, you got to sit down and talk about what we're not going to do that we're currently doing to come up with $1.
Okay. That is true, too. But, Bob, if we, those who can, no matter how small, if we cannot help all the people at one time, and if we stop looking at the government to do everything, and everyone that can afford can chip in.
Well, now wait a second. I'm not so sure I want to. I'm not so sure I want to chip in $100 for medical insurance for people who cannot currently afford medical insurance, because I'm not so damn sure that I want the medical profession as it's currently being run to continue to be run in that way and to get an additional $15 billion worth of customers at my expense. I'm not so damn sure I want somebody charging $125 when somebody first walks through the door for a first initial visit. I think that's outrageous. And I'll be damned if I want my medical insurance paying for that. So maybe it isn't so much a matter of reorganizing the nation's priorities. Maybe it's a matter of putting severe pressure on the medical industry so that perhaps more people could afford to pay for their medical insurance themselves instead of my paying for it.
Well, I have been thinking, because I came here, I was not born here, and I have heard a lot of people talk on this as well. We cannot have government who is putting in insurance.
I don't want any damn more government insurance. I don't think most people in this country do.
But
government has a tough enough time delivering the mail. I don't want them taking care of my body.
It is difficult for me to understand that in these islands where, poverty, that's where it is. That's where it came from, those British islands, and where people don't have to worry about if they're sick today or tomorrow. And in a country where you have so much, and people are being refused in hospital just because they don't have it.
Oh, no, sir. Nobody has ever been refused hospitalization in this country that really needed it. Yeah, we have some private hospitals. Sir, we have private hospitals that may not take you, but there is medical medical, no, I was going to say medical coverage, wrong word. There is medical attention available to anybody who needs it in this country. You know that as well as I do.
Okay, Bob.
I mean, you may not be able to get your tooth pulled because you've got a toothache for free. You may not be able to get the wart removed from your lip. But if you have a serious life-threatening medical problem, you've got it taken care of, sir. You know that as well as I do. May not be able to get the top physician in town.
I can tell you something.
But hell, I can't afford the top physician in town, sir.
Uh-huh.
Okay?
I guess you're right.
I know I am.
Here's why.
News Radio 970 WFLA.
To the Howard Franklin we go. Hi there, Howard, or is it Franklin?
Yeah, well, we're off of Howard Franklin now, but we were on there for a little bit.
Okay.
What do I like the most living right now?
Yeah, about the times that you live in. What do you like
Times
most?
that I live in right now, you know,
Mhm.
currently we haven't, or we don't have a mass amount of Americans dying in some foreign conflict, i.e. a Vietnam or something to that effect.
And the thing that you dislike?
And what I dislike is the complexity of trying to live in today's society. And I know that's a broad statement, but complexity in terms of regulation, exposure of drugs, a massive exposure of drugs, an illicit drug trade in Florida costing billions and billions of dollars to try to regulate and manipulate the complexity of society for young people and their exposure to everything and everything, probably by the age of 14.
Hey, so please, whatever you do, don't call the station.
Bob Lassiter, News Radio 970 WFLA.
I don't know if the people in this radio station really realize exactly what it is I do for them. Just realize how important I am around here. You see, I went downstairs during the break. Very unusual for me to do this because I'm not really into sweets. But I went downstairs during the break to the candy machine downstairs because they have in there these really tacky little orange wedged things. You know, it's a Tom's machine. But for some strange reason, I like these nondescript orange Tom's wedged candies. And apparently the guy who tends to the Tom's machine has been here recently, and apparently he had in his bag of tricks one miserable little bag of Tom's Spice Drops that weighed 2.5 ounces or 70.8 grams. And these Spice Drops are never in the machine, and which I can well understand why. You know, there's some green ones and some black ones and some yellow ones. Ew, ew. You know, just a handful of red and orange ones, which don't even taste like red or orange ones. And they are heading up the row where the little orange slices that I want, and apparently everybody else in the radio station wants, because, you know, these things keep on disappearing. Somebody here is buying them. Nobody has ever bought the Spice Drops in this radio station, but there's this one miserable bag of Spice Drops before all of the other orange drops. I've got 2 quarters. It takes 45 cents. And so I bought the Spice Drops. If anybody here in the radio station is listening to the program, it is now safe to go to the Tom's machine and buy the orange little wedges there. And if any of you had any decency at all, you would take up a collection. I mean, hell, a nickel apiece from 9 of you, right? A nickel. We will see just how much I mean to this radio station. A nickel apiece will get you the 45 cents, and you can go to the machine and buy me the little orange wedges that I so desperately wanted. I did not want these damn Spice Drops. Who in God's name would want these things? This must be the kind of candy that Tom would put in the machine when he found out that he was going to lose the contract, you know? When they're served 30 days notice and they fill the machine with this kind of stuff. I mean, we didn't give the guys 30 days notice, did I? I'm very happy with the Tom service that we get here. You know, it's usually very good. The stuff is fresh. The stuff is, you know, what you expect to get out of a machine. So Spice Drops, black ones and yellow ones. Ew, ew. Nonetheless, where were we? 11 minutes now after the hour of 1 o'clock. Welcome back. Hour number 2, Tuesday, January the 31st, 1989. I've asked a question. I don't know what in the hell to do with it at this point. Certainly not getting the response that I'd hoped for, but nonetheless, I'll even give you the telephone numbers. Hillsborough, 990-9352, 990-WFLA. Pinellas, 461-9352, 461-WFLA. Great. 2 people have just dropped off as I gave out the phone numbers. And to Holiday it is. Hi there, Holiday. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
The thing I like about living in these times is the technology that we live with.
Mm-hmm.
Just 15 years ago, the average luxury item in each home was a telephone answering machine, you know, that you can pick up for $49.95 at Radio Shack these days. But, you know, to look out in space like they did 200 years ago and now be able to look at the pictures of the rings around Saturn and stuff like that, and the computers making life easier. Of course, you know, the computers are also taking a lot of blunt, abusive comments from people about how they're taking over people's jobs. And I see the fact that they are. However, you know, they're creating more technical jobs for people who have to, you know, build them, install them, and stuff like that. And
I wonder, I'm a computer fanatic, okay? I mean, I love my little computer. That's my little fantasy world. It's where I go to hide when I can't deal with the real world as I go and sit and play with my computer. But from what I can see around me, from what I can see in my own house, I'm not so sure the computers don't just, you know, make a lot of additional work. You know, then don't really accomplish all that much in the way of helping us. And for some of the things that we are losing to the computer, in the way of privacy, in the way of information that we don't want gathered on is being gathered and disseminated real quick.
Sure, the average American doesn't know that his name comes up on a computer at least 7 times a day. 7 times a day, somewhere in this country, his name will come up on a computer. Somebody's checking on him somewhere. You're right about that. We did lose a lot of privacy, and you know, some of the software you buy for your personal computer is so complex that you're going to spend a year trying to learn how to use it just to balance a simple budget that you could use a piece of paper and a pencil.
You sound to me like a relatively young man, am I correct?
Yes, I am. 28.
28. Relatively young, and with each passing year that goes under my belt, younger still. Let me see if I can't pull a little bit of rank here on you. I'm 43 years old, okay? Not very old, but not very young either.
Yeah.
Somewhere smack dab in the middle.
Yeah.
And I've been up, I've been down, I've been around the block a couple of times. I've been to the county fair, and I'm probably going to go a lot of places that I still haven't even thought of yet. But it's starting to dawn on me at the ripe old age of 43 that some of the simpler things in life, are the most important things. You know, whoa, stop the presses. You might want to write this one down. But it's true. It's true. And for an example, getting back into cooking. My wife and I just enjoy cooking for each other. It doesn't take computers to do that. It takes a stove, a pot, and some ingredients, and a little bit of thought. More conversation, less watching the tube, less going to the movies. I don't know, man. I think we have too many luxuries.
I agree with that. My wife and I, we keep our life rather simple, you know. We have...
Right, I know, just you and your computer.
No, I don't even own a computer. I service computers for a living. My company offers me a computer, a PC computer at their cost, but I haven't even bothered to accept the offer because of the fact that I can see what time it is going to take away from my wife and myself. What I mean about the technology that we're living in, you know, living with all around us, is the technology that people are using in industry, such as the space program. You know, this has got some real implications about how the future is going to be handled. You know, it's the Jetsons come true. But at the same time, I do agree with you about the fact that the simple things in life, you know, just, you know, don't leave your wife a little computer note that says, "I love you, dear," you know, write it on a piece of paper. You know, I do agree with you there. I do enjoy cooking for my wife.
Mary, if you're listening, please don't open the drawer on the hall table. Please don't open that. Oh, my God, you shouldn't have done that on the computer, you mean?
And
I thought I was being so romantic.
That's true. The thing that I don't like about living in this time, you know, here they are. We're in the last year of 1989, moving on to the 90s, and almost into the year 2000, you know? And it seems to me that there is bigotry and racial unrest in the same proportion, if not extenuated, compared to how it was 100 years ago. You know
of course there is. Human beings haven't changed. There's always going to be bigotry and racial unrest.
That's what bothers me. That's the one thing I don't like living in our times, about living in these times, is the fact that, you know, here we are, we're a people that are learning how to better our world through technology, through simple things.
But that has nothing to do with basic human nature.
Yeah, I agree. You'd think that we could learn how to live with each other, though, you know?
Oh, well, that's very simple. I mean, do you really have your paper and pencil handy now?
I sure do.
Very, very simple. All the minorities have to do is become just like us. And then there's no further problem, just like the majority. You know, when I say us, that's all they have to do. You know, it's up to them, man. It's not
that
up
is
to
the
me.
attitude of this country, it seems like to me.
Well, now, wait a second. What's the matter with that?
What's the matter with that?
Yeah.
We have to be able to concede to them also. Okay? We've got to live where they live, and they've got to live where we live.
No, wait a second.
And I don't mean in the neighborhoods. I mean in the heart.
No, wait a second. I'm a human being. You are a human being.
Exactly.
You know, I don't know where it comes from. It doesn't make any difference to me where it comes from. That's a philosophical question for another day. But deep inside me, I fear and resent anything that is different from me. I'm also a very practical man. If there are 500 me's and 200 you's, it's a hell of a lot easier for you to change than for me to change. If it's the other way around, then again, I'm a practical man. I'll change to meet your standards if I'm in the minority. And I'm not so sure that there's anything terribly wrong with that. That's just a fact of life. I mean, why are you going to ask me to do what I can try to train my dog to answer the phone, but my dog can't answer the phone.
That's
and no
right.
matter how hard I try to train it, it's not going to change. So maybe I should answer the phone myself and get my dog to go and get my slippers, which she is more capable of doing.
I see the point you're trying to make, and I just hope that you can possibly see the point I'm trying to make.
Oh, of course I see the point you're trying to make. It's a delightfully naive, simplistic, beautiful point of view that I fear we're banging, and one that I shared probably with you up until 20 minutes ago. and I fear we're just banging our head against the wall. And damn it, I'm sorry, Jesse, but but you better stop talking in rhyme and get go to Brooks Brothers for your suits, Jesse. And I think you're going to make a hell of a lot more headway.
Speaking of Jesse, I think that he, believe it or not, with his calling himself Afro-Americans or whatever it is he wants to label himself,
Setting himself back 5 years.
Right. I think he's making it worse because he's saying, okay, we're going to remember our heritage, and oh, by the way, along in that heritage, remember what those white boys did to us a long time ago? Remember how they kept us in slavery? And I think that
Oh, I don't see that message at all. I don't really think, from what I have been able to see, it's much of a topic of conversation in the black community, whether they're called blacks or Afro-Americans. This is something for people at the New York Athletic Club, William Buckley and that crowd, to sit around and talk about. I don't really think it's a great topic of conversation, in College Hill.
Yeah, I agree. I just
Maybe
I guess it's wishful thinking, and I guess that's the reason why I brought it up as the thing I don't like about these times. I imagine, like you said, human nature probably will never let something like this get resolved, unfortunately, and that's the sad thing about these times.
No, I beg your pardon. There is a solution to it, and the solution is, and it has been demonstrated time and time and time again throughout the world, to let the minority be the one to assimilate into the majority, not the other way around. And damn it, I'm sorry if people don't like the sound of that. It's a fact of life, and you can't change life. We are human animals. We're highly predictable in our behavior and our traits. It's got to be that way.
I think you're right, and I hate to concede to that because of my human nature being a loving, kind person, having to realize that hey, somebody's got to really give for this to work.
I don't know that that's not being loving and kind.
The person who's trying to melt into the melting pot. You can't expect the pot to melt into the sauce. It's the sauce that melts into the pot.
Very good analogy. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Be good. Any signs whatsoever of the staff getting together and collecting the 45 cents and coming up with the orange wedges? Miserable people down there. 990-9352 in Hillsborough, 461-9352 in Pinellas.
There's a world out there waiting to rough you up. Your day gets rougher as the day goes by. Then it's time for Jergens Extra Dry. Moving out the rough spot. Moving out the rough spot.
Jergens Extra Dry isn't just an ordinary lotion. It's a therapeutic skin conditioning treatment that helps heal the roughest elbows, knees, and heels.
Moving out the rough spot. Jergens Extra Dry. Moving out the
Winter's here. So how do you cope with a tough winter cold?
Listen to Dennis Andrews. When I feel terrible, I want something that's going to work quick. Alka-Seltzer Plus clears up my congestion, the pounding in my head, the runny nose. I hate the runny nose, the watery eyes.
That's Dennis Andrews for Alka-Seltzer Plus Cold Medicine.
It's a lifesaver for me because it gives me what I want. I want to feel good and I want to look good. And I stick with something that works.
Alka-Seltzer Plus Cold Medicine. Fast, effective relief for tough winter colds. Use as directed.
You've got a cold. Your nose is stuffed. Use Duration nasal spray. Fast relief that lasts. Hour after hour after hour. Duration. Up to 12 hours of relief with the longest-lasting nasal decongestant. The one doctors recommend most for relief that lasts. Hour after hour after hour. Duration in spray or tablets because you're better off with relief that lasts. Hour after hour after hour. Duration. Use only as directed.
Maxwell House Coffee is celebrating the Super Bowl. Your January 15th newspaper has money-saving coupons and an offer for your personalized Super Bowl mug. And check Maxwell House Coffee displays at participating stores for our NFL Super Bowl football offer.
That's the good to the laptop feel in a Maxwell House. Only Maxwell House. That's the good to the laptop feel in a Maxwell House. Thank you. Some guys, they have it all. Some guys are just too vague. Some guys, they have them all. Some guys get left out in the rain.
Don't wait for something good to happen. Make it happen with the clean, masculine scent of English leather cologne.
Some guys have what others want. Some guys have it all.
English leather cologne and aftershave. Some guys have it all.
The legendary raincoat.
Well, a few wrinkles that never hurt anybody.
The legendary cigar.
Don't worry, it's not lit.
The legendary mind.
I think you killed him, sir. It was just a thought.
Columbo. The legend returns.
Well, there is one more question.
Oh, yes. Premiering Monday, February 6th, 9, 8 Central on ABC's Monday Mystery Movie.
Got a couple of lines open. They are both in Hillsborough. The number 990-9352, 990-WFLA. Port Richey. Hi there, Port. You're on the air.
Hi, this is Nancy Britton calling from Port Richey.
Uh-huh.
My girlfriend got me interested in your program from St. Pete, and she's the one who brings the cookies and her kids to see you.
Oh, okay. I know who you're talking about.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Well, I
Chocolate-covered pretzels, actually, they were the last time.
I'm sorry?
They were actually chocolate-covered pretzels the last time.
Oh, were they?
Yeah,
okay.
delicious.
Well, we were talking about insurance, and that really got my goat. And that's one thing I don't like about the world we live in today. My husband and I have our own business, and we have a pretty nice home here, which we're mortgaged to the hilt. And I have one son who's 3 years old, and he costs us about $8,000. It took me about 3 years to pay him off, and I'd like to have another child, and I just cannot see with the business.
Did you get a payment book with him, by the way?
Well, no, I just got harassed a lot. Anyway, I can't understand why people around me that I see every day are having 2 kids, 3 kids, and because they're not married, or because they don't want to make that commitment, or because they don't work, they get whatever they want. But I go and I call up.
No, wait a second. You're really painting here with a very broad brush. I mean, please don't put yourself in a position where I'm going to have to sit here and pick apart what you're saying, because you're generalizing now.
Well,
now, are there people who abuse the system? Yes, there are. But even those who abuse the system are not exactly living a life of luxury that you more...
Excuse me.
Yes?
What's this Peerless Faucet Save and Style rebate?
Well, I'll relate that all Peerless Designer and Demixa faucets now come with an $8 rebate.
Well, that's
a great rate on stylish do-it-yourself faucets that accentuate.
Could you just
illuminate that the quality of these faucets is first rate?
Well, then there's no debate.
That the Peerless $8 rebate
is great.
So don't wait.
Because Peerless Faucet Save and Style rebate
ends February 27.
You mean 28?
That's the date.
Don't be late.
I won't.
Here's
at the plate. Tommy Lassiter doesn't like the call. I'm sure he's got a few choice words for the ump.
Spicy lunch and Pete's Chili Hut? That's the last time you'll pick the restaurant.
Lassiter, I'm sick of your belly aching.
I'm sick of my heartburn. I come out to borrow a Rolaids.
Get relief. You know how to spell it. Rolaids.
You didn't even finish your chili.
Sometimes my eyes are bigger than my stomach.
Nobody's eyes are that big.
You're out of here.
Not before I get that Rolaids.
Rolaids antacid. Use only as directed.
Some guys, they have it all. Some guys are just too vain. Some guys, they have them all. Some guys get left out in the rain.
Don't wait for something good to happen. Make it happen with the clean, masculine scent of English leather cologne.
Some guys have what others want. Some guys have it all.
English leather cologne and aftershave. Some guys have it all.
Well,
Now, are there people who abuse the system? Yes, there are. But even those who abuse the system are not exactly living a life of luxury that you might imply when you say they're getting everything that they want.
well, all right, but what I'm trying to get to is, the point is, we work for a living, and I have gone to see whether or not I could get a little bit of that help because I cannot afford to come up with the money that the hospital wants me to come up with.
Mm-hmm.
And they just flat out refuse.
And you're right to bring it up, and you're absolutely correct. It is wrong. Of the way that we are set up in this country, we absolutely discourage middle-class families from staying together. We discourage them from forming. We discourage them from continuing to exist. And you're right, and it's wrong. It's dead, dead, dead wrong.
Yeah, my husband, he gets so upset because of the fact that he's out there. He has a lawn service, costs a lot of money for the equipment, and half the time we can't get paid for the jobs that we do.
Mm-hmm.
And, I should be able to claim some of that. Well, look, I did this work for this person but didn't get any money back from him.
But here is the real problem. You're blaming the wrong group of people. You're right that there is a serious situation in this country today that makes it more and more difficult for a young middle-class family to exist. But you're blaming the wrong group of people. It is not the relative handful of people who are getting government checks.
Right.
I'm not too happy about that either. I'm real unhappy about it. But where the real problem is, the reason that your medical insurance is so outrageously high, the reason that, the cost of real estate is so outrageously high, it's not the lower classes, it's the upper classes who are speculating with the basic needs of a family.
Right.
Shelter, food, transportation, medical care. These things are all being speculated with amongst the wealthy, driving the cost up. That's where the problem is. That's what we have to stop.
Right, I totally agree.
I don't want you to have to get a government check to pay your medical insurance. I think it should be low enough that you can afford it.
Okay, now here's another thing if we want to talk about insurance. Because of the fact that with my first son I had placenta previa, which is a serious condition, and the fact that I had to have a cesarean section, when I try and get insurance for me to be able to afford the insurance coverage, for me to even get someone in the door, every person I've had come to my dining room table and sit here and tell me, you have to prove to our insurance company that you can deliver a child 100% naturally before we'll even take you. They waive me every time.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't even get the insurance. Okay, then the state of Florida will give me insurance, but I have to put out $150 a month, plus then I have to pay their $1,200 deductible or whatever. And I figured it out. They'd pay $1,500 and I'd pay $5,000. So that, to me, makes no sense why I even have the insurance.
Well, say $1,500 anyway.
Well, yeah, well, so what?
Don't look a gift horse in the mouth now.
Well, and the things that I like, basically, are about the world, the fact that we don't have any more wars that our servicemen are involved in at this time. And, the idea that I am allowed to get on talk radio and have some speech and argue about or complain about things. I like that. So other than that, that's about all I have to say today.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
I don't know how many of you remember, but there was a call yesterday, a young woman who was talking about, I've got 6 years of college, and it's not fair that I don't get as much money as somebody who works in the factory. Well, again, pointed it out yesterday, pointed out again, will gladly point it out again today. That's part of the problem. Too many damn people with 6 years of college who want to be paid through the nose for doing little or nothing. And too many people out there cutting grass in the hot summer sun in Florida who can't afford medical insurance. Ruskin, you're on the air at 970 WFLA. Hi, Rusk.
Hi.
Hi.
My comment was kind of related to the caller you had like 2 calls ago.
Uh-huh.
And it was about prejudice.
Yeah.
I first wanted to say was what I liked about this world is that we have so much communication, and we have the information that's available to us through the newspapers and the TV and the radio and through shows like this, that we are well informed. And it's made the world seem so much smaller. But what I don't like is, even though the world is so much smaller and people have the opportunity to be so well informed, is that there is still prejudice, because people will not have the open mind to learn about different countries and different people and even different races within a country and accept them the way they are.
So what do you do?
Well, there's not really, like you said, being realistic, there's not really as much that you can do. And I do agree with you on the point that it is the minorities that have to change and stop trying to make themselves so different and stand apart. But on the other hand, the majority can be a little bit more open-minded and not use such broad slandering terms as nigger, spick, and, like what we were having the problems with the Russians, and every joke you heard on the radio was about Russia. Or when we were having problems with Iran, was, every joke, they turned the Polak jokes to Iranian jokes, and it just seems to be taking it in this such cycles that they never seem to break.
Why do you think people do that, though?
Because it's entertaining to them.
Entertaining to them, or is it because they're afraid? And it's a way of releasing some of that fear. Is that possible?
Well, that's true. It could be that, and that in being afraid, it's like most people normally do. When you're afraid, you strike out at something, whether it's making fun of them or fighting with them. And so that's what we as Americans seem to do. We either laugh something off or we get hot about it, and then we end up going to war, so to speak, with these people.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Be good. Hillsborough, 990-9352, 990-WFLA. Tampa. Hi, Tampa. You're on the air.
Hello, Bob. How you doing?
Fine.
I just more or less wanted to bring up a point or two about, modern-day technology and such.
Mm-hmm.
More or less what your last 2 callers had to say about the communications, for instance, that it's good to a point, but it's reducing everybody down to a mere number, and it's really taking the personal aspect out of it. Granted,
Are you so sure that's the technology or the reality of the fact that we just no longer stay in one place?
Well, the one caller mentioned that the world is getting smaller. Well, that's been the old expression because, we have faster communications. We have just faster ways of communicating with people by and large, but it's just taking the personal aspect out of it.
I'm not so sure that that's the machine's fault, though. Well, as much as it is the fact that we just don't stay put.
Well, maybe the technology is getting ahead of us.
I mean, if we all stayed put, if we all still lived on the same block where we grew up, it wouldn't really make any difference that we all had computers or that we all had telephones or that we all had televisions. It's not the machines that have caused us to stop knowing each other. It's the fact that we keep moving.
Well, that's true, but I'm just looking at the aspect of, say, up until like 15, 20 years ago, where the small pocket calculator or the little calculated watch was the greatest thing in the world, and now you can get them for $3 at McDonald's or something.
Every time I get together with a friend of mine, we marvel at the $375 that I spent for a 4-function calculator about 12 years ago.
And how it took,
well, worse than that, it took 4 adults almost 2 days to figure out how to use it. It was just fantastic.
But I guess just basically the bottom line is that maybe we're getting ahead of us, the technology is getting ahead of us, and that's going to be, to me, maybe the downfall of what we know today. I don't know. But it's the small world really isn't the good aspect because for instance, we can see wars now where we didn't see them before. That's the communications, or where it's put right into our living room the very day it happens. And that's just a scary aspect to me. It's just the communications is getting ahead of us, the technology. I always go back to this one movie I saw called Brazil. I don't know.
No, but wait a second. You mentioned the war in the living room. Isn't it not normally attributed to television putting that war in the living room that ended the Vietnam War? That turned the nation against that war?
Well, a lot of people think so. I think so. It had a lot to do with it, quite a bit to do with it. But it wasn't the communications that ended the war. I think it was just the outcry altogether. It was a bad war, and people just realized it. I don't think the communications had all to do with that. It was just being brought back to us that much faster, where during the Korean War, say, for instance, World War II, it took literally days for these commentators to get the word back and such.
Well, now, wait a second again. Wasn't it almost 40 years ago that a man, well, actually, there were several men, but one of them named Edward R. Murrow, who used to sit in London and live in your living room paint pictures with words that were more vivid than any camera could ever capture?
Well, that was the state of the art back then. What he had back then was what was allowed for the time. Now, we've gone so much past that, it's just, I think we're just getting ahead of ourselves, and that's...
I don't know.
No?
I don't know. Well, anyway, what do you like about the times you live in?
Well, it's in this particular time, we're not any, getting back to the wars, we're not at any great length of wars with these little small pockets here and there popping up, but I think we're living in the lap of luxury. At least this country is, I think.
Do you realize that our standard of living is not exactly the highest in the world?
No, but it's...
There's several countries that are ahead of us.
Yeah, that's true. But I would like to see, and you may cut me to ribbons for this, but I would like to see this country go more to a socialism, more or less of a, how can I put it, where, well, then I'm going to take away the whole aspect of free enterprise, where too little people of the rich aspect are running the whole country, where the rest of the people, they're living in their ivory towers.
Well, I agree with you. That's part of the problem that we have in this country today. I disagree with you on the solution. I don't think the solution has to be quite that extreme. I think that there's some ground in between that would not take away the incentive in this country to become an entrepreneur, to become your own boss.
No.
Oh, and
the middle class is the one that's really taking it hard, though. The upper class sit back. I believe it's an elitist country. It's the elitists that actually run the country. You have to have a lot of money to get into office.
My dear friend, the Soviet Union is an elitist country. The People's Republic of China is an elitist country. Human beings are such that whenever, we get into power, we reward ourselves and our buddies.
That's true.
Socialism does not relieve that.
No, but they have a true socialist republic. Do you agree with that?
A true socialist republic?
Yeah. USSR. It's basically a government run right down from the top right down to the very bottom.
Beyond it, it's basically a disaster, too, from what my understanding of it is.
Well, obviously that doesn't work as much as a democracy doesn't, has its downfalls also, but that's the people that are actually running the country, this country, say, for instance, any country, I guess, that has a free democracy, they don't understand the real problems of the lower people. I think.
Well, you see, I think one of the problems in any type of system is when you assume that there is an answer. When you assume that just do it this way and everything will be fine forever and ever more. I was kind of under the impression that when the so-called founding fathers got together and put this baby together, they said there ain't no answers. So they came up with this living, breathing document that was supposed to change with the times and with the attitudes. And it seemed to work damned well until we reached a point in this country where people sat back and said, well, I think if we just did this, if we totally eliminated that and just did it this way, this would make it all fine and well and honky-dory.
Well, do you believe that original talking contract, if you want to put it, does it work as good as it did today as it did back then? Since we've changed, we've come so far ahead. A lot of the things that were true then...
Well, you see, there are an awful lot of things that make me real unhappy about the times that I live in. I was going to answer my own question a little bit later on. But one of the things, the thing that makes me the happiest about the times that I live in is that for all of the shortcomings, for all of the problems, for all of the grief and all of the aggravation, all of the disparity, that piece of paper still works damn good.
Yeah,
and it still continues to work, and I think that it is still strong enough that even when we make mistakes and get kind of carried away in the wrong direction, that it's elastic enough that it will keep us going for quite some time to come.
Well, let me just throw this at you one more time here. If it's so elastic, why can't... See, I wouldn't mind getting back to this socialist type of attitude. I wouldn't mind paying for someone's health insurance, say, for instance, as long as I know I was getting some of the benefits, too.
I don't want to pay for anybody's health insurance, damn it.
Well, what if I want an economy benefits out of it?
I want an economy robust enough that they can pay for their own. I want an economy robust enough to where there aren't 37 million people on welfare.
Well,
I don't want 250 million people on welfare.
I think the USSR has their problems also.
Right, they got 250 million people on welfare.
But they don't have the class system that we do, though.
I'm not so sure about that.
They have their
really think that
they have their working class too, and that's the blunt of their country.
Do you really think that Mikhail and Raisa are just plain folk?
Well, I imagine somewhere down the line they have some royalty in order to get into that spot. Granted, but well, I don't know. I'm contradicting myself here.
I know. It ain't easy, is it?
No, it's not.
Just keep thinking about it, my friend.
Okay.
Be good. Bye. One line available in Hillsborough, 990-9352, 990-WFLA.
Start with the best.
And that we all prosper or fail based upon what the other guy's doing. St. Pete, they're high. St. Petey, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Yeah, I'm a first-time caller. I just want to say I love your program.
Thank you.
It's good for the Bay Area. I travel all over the state of Florida, and I was down in Miami at the time of the riots, and we heard people talk on the news at nighttime how they want jobs and they want people to come back into Overtown, into Liberty City, and they want people to rebuild their city for them. I came from a lower poverty family. Until I left for college on student loans and grants and scholarships, I was on welfare. I know what it's like to be dirt poor and to be hungry from day to day. Well, I always told myself when I was a little boy that I'd work my butt off to get out of that situation. And I did. I worked hard, and now I'm at the age, I'm almost 30 years old, and I have my own business, thank God. Through God's blessings and good health, I've been able to do that. We're all put on this earth for a reason. Granted, we have to help each other, but you can't help anybody else unless you help yourself first. I had an excellent solution for those people in Overtown. They wanted jobs.
Wait a second. Which people? Most people in Overtown work.
Well, a lot of them,
as you well know.
What I saw on the news.
Well, most do.
Huh?
Most do.
Okay. Well, let's leave the people that do work for a minute out of it. Let's talk about the people that don't work or don't want to work. They want society to hand it to them on a silver platter. Why don't we give them the bricks and the mortar and let them rebuild their own city and pay them so much now?
Could you possibly give me a ballpark figure as to how many men in the city of Miami are on welfare?
Oh, who has those figures? I don't.
Well, I do.
All right.
0.
Okay.
Not one, sir. There is no welfare in the state of Florida for an able-bodied man. There is no welfare in the United States of America for an able-bodied man. There is no welfare, sir, in the state of Florida for an able-bodied woman without dependent children. None. There is no welfare for able-bodied adults without dependent children. None. So where are all these people, sir, that you spoke of in Overtown who have their hands out and want even more? Where are they, sir?
They were on the news.
They were on the news, oh.
Where were you?
Instead, seeing what doesn't exist. I think, sir, that perchance you feel as though you found a friend in what I said about how the minorities must assimilate into the majority. I fear that you misunderstood what I said, sir. That was not a racist comment. It was not a bigoted statement. It was the statement by, maybe a rather naive young man who wishes that the world would work a little bit better than it does, but it was not the kind of statement that would come from somebody who would paint pictures that don't exist about those people in Overtown. Those people in Overtown, sir, happen to be human beings. And those people in Overtown, the majority of them, sir, happen to work and pay their way and pay their taxes, the overwhelming majority of them. And yes, sir, I appreciate that there are unfortunately a lot of thugs that also live in Overtown that take advantage of a situation to break into a liquor store or into a grocery store or into any kind of store. Hell, they would have probably stolen tombstones had there been a tombstone store in the middle of Overtown, just because that's the mentality of a certain criminal element. But to paint an entire group of people, sir, that live in a neighborhood as those people.
Well, I didn't mean it as a whole group of people, as you just stated.
Oh, sir, you did mean it, and you got caught at it. Tough luck. Late, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Good afternoon, Bob.
Good afternoon, Lake.
I'm a first-time caller, And I just want to make some comments about the lady was talking about insurance. I'm a private investigator, and I do insurance fraud mostly, investigate. And I think most of the problems these days are people. A lot of people are still saying, you know, where's my free handout? Like somebody owes them something. I know for myself.
Well, sir,
I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about everybody.
Well, I was going to say, if you're willing to say everybody, then I'll agree with that statement.
Everybody.
That's right.
It's not a particular race. It's not a particular type of an individual. It's just everybody's mentality these days is what can I get for the least amount of trouble. You know, everybody wants to sue everybody. I mean, it's just getting absolutely ridiculous. The majority of things I watch, you would be amazed at people collecting money and sitting around the house. I mean, and able-bodied people, you know, they have a job and just don't want to work it. You know, I see a lot of people. You know, it just drives me crazy trying to figure out, well, why are these people collecting money? And you know, I see them taking a motor out of a car. You know, they're breaking their backs. You know, and they go back inside the house and they collect the money.
I've been led to believe that what you tell me is the gospel.
And I think if everybody...
I've known some people who had no qualms whatsoever with collecting on their insurance.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind paying for my wife and my insurance. I don't want to pay for anybody else's. And I think that's the majority of everybody's thinking these days is, what can I get? Who can I sue? You know, and if they stop doing that and put all that energy that they wasted towards them getting ahead, I mean, they're going to get ahead a lot faster.
You know, I just thought of a situation where I think probably everybody listening to the show can identify with, because everybody listening to the show probably knows at least one person that has done this, a good buddy, a good friend type of person.
Absolutely.
Unemployment insurance. How many times have we known somebody, or frankly even perhaps ourselves, known somebody who was laid off, whatever, sat back and said, hey, I got me 26 weeks of vacation.
That's right.
And make little or no effort whatsoever. And these are our good friends. These are the same people, same people we go to church with, bowl with, whatever it might be. Same class of people. These are not people that live in Overtown.
That's correct.
These are not usually people off of the boat from Ariel. They're red-blooded Americans.
The average
apple pie eating American.
That's right. The average fella down the block is going to stick it to somebody because he's getting tired now. He don't want to work for a while.
Well, unfortunately, you see, there's only one way to stop people from being cheats with the unemployment, to stop people from being cheats with their insurance, as you're talking about. There's only one way and one way alone to put an end to that. It's not jail terms. It's not legislation. It's for guys like you, guys like me, gals like who call up on the show, listen to the show, for us all to just turn our noses up in disgust.
Absolutely.
At the next instance that we run into this with a friend.
Absolutely.
Or relative.
I mean, it's just like that old joke. Everybody's sitting around the table and somebody makes a joke about a particular race of people, and everybody laughs about it. You know, and inside sometimes you might feel, well, that was really kind of stupid to say that. But for that person to sit there not say that to that person, who lets him get away with the joke, and it's the same thing with letting him get away with, oh, yeah, I'm out here on work comp, man, and, it's the same thing.
Sure is, and that's the only way to stop it, my friend. I thank you much.
Thank you.
Be good.
At 9 minutes before 2 o'clock, Tampa police say if you leave a cookie trail, you're a crummy thief. Millions of dollars being offered as a reward for any live American POW. And a rescue after an avalanche in Colorado. These stories and more at 2 Don Myers, News Radio 970 WFLA.
Everybody likes a good party. But have you thought about what makes the perfect party? It all comes down to the right mix. Good friends, good refreshments, and good judgment. So if you choose to drink, follow 3 simple rules. First, know your limits. The legal drinking limit in most states for driving a vehicle is a blood alcohol concentration of 0.10%. However, your personal limit may be less. Second, stay within these limits. Pace yourself. Remember that food in your stomach can help slow the absorption of alcohol into your bloodstream. And finally, if you should have too much to drink, please don't drive. Have a friend drive you home. Take a cab or stay where you are. You don't have to give up your social life to be socially responsible. It's all a matter of good judgment. For more tips, write to the Distilled Spirits Council, 1250 I Street Northwest, Washington, D.C., 20005.
This is a public service message from the Department of Justice, Office of Special Counsel.
If you are eligible to work in the United States, you should know your rights as an employee. You should know that by law, you cannot be denied work nor be fired from a job on the basis of your citizenship status or national origin. The law protects you against this kind of discrimination. If you've been a victim of discrimination in the workplace, remember that help is available to you. The Office of Special Counsel for Immigration-Related Unfair Employment Practices is ready to help you. Find out how they can help by calling toll-free 1-800-255-7688. Stand up for your rights, and it is your right to work without being discriminated against. The call is toll-free, and the number again is 1-800-255-7688. 1-800-255-7688.
I'm the detective who figured out what done in Mr. and Mrs. Finkel. Clues were everywhere. Bowling trophies, broken tennis racket. They had been active once, but then they quit. It's not too late for you, kids. Keeping fit is no mystery. Find an exercise you like and stay with it. Fitness is feeling great.
From the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports.
Only a hand. Oh, you're kidding me. Damn. I was just about to say only a handful of people are entitled to be addressed by name on this program, one of them being Scott in Clearwater, and I was just about to push the button, but the miserable little weasel, dropped off. Unbelievable. Yo, weasel, what the hell else you got to do with your life, except to sit there on hold? You don't have a gig. You don't leave the house. You don't have any friends. All you've got to do is to sit there on hold. Give me a break, weasel, Brandon, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello, Bob.
Hello, Brandon.
Hey, good afternoon. I wanted to comment on what pleases me most and displeases me most, and I guess it's really a single phenomenon. My situation is such that my wife is attending the University of Florida Law School up in Gainesville.
Mm-hmm.
We have 2 daughters, ages 7 and 5, and I work and run the household, and it's our particular situation that gives me so much pleasure and at the same time creates some problems and frustrations for me. And to put it on maybe a more general level, I think what's kind of neat about what's happening in our culture is that we're being allowed to kind of shift some of our roles. And in my relationship, I do all the cleaning, all the cooking, buying all the groceries and such. And I derive a lot of pleasure out of that.
I'm not so sure that's a good thing anymore.
What's that?
The shifting of the roles.
Well, I tell you, to answer that it's also at times some real problems for me too.
Mm-hmm. You see, I think that a woman, of course, should have the same options that I have, but I just wish they wouldn't take so many of them.
Yeah. Well, I have those feelings too sometimes when during the witching hour from 6 to 7 p.m. every night, after coming home from work and then having to throw myself into all the distaff demands. Like one of the things that really bothers me is I try to do a lot of reading about parenting. And it seems like I read Parents Magazine, for instance, and all the ads are aimed at women or mothers. Mm-hmm. When I go to the pediatrician and take my girls there, there's always this strange feeling of what am I doing there and where's the real parent? Another small thing I worry about is and another thing I enjoy is getting my girls ready in the morning. And talking about the new day and watching them get the sleepiness out of their eyes and such. And yet I have to nag them to get ready. And I worry sometimes that I'm going to be, and in years ahead, known as the nagging parent, and my wife is going to have the wonderful role of being more distant, yet not having to get her, get down on all the...
Except here's the bitch. I mean, I think that you absolutely should have the joy of helping to read.
And at many times had to keep my mouth shut and let my wife do the talking.
Well, I think you're probably a classic example of that overused phrase, mixed blessings.
Yeah, exactly. But
you're living in interesting times.
That's why I wanted to call and comment on your program today, because I'm glad I'm in my situation, but it is...
I'm glad you called.
Yeah.
Be good.
Take care.
where news happens in Carrollwood.
I had this great feeling of security going into the newscast. Not quite a full board, but not terribly far from it. We do not have that feeling of security coming out of the newscast. St. Petersburg. Hi there, St. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hi, Bob. I'd like to give my opinion on the subject. One of the things I like about the world today is that I can remember a time when there was no VCRs, no FM stereo, no soft contact lenses, things like that. And life is much more enjoyable with things like that. Technology. I approve of that.
Well, I approve of technology too, but is that what life is about?
Well, that's about the only real good thing that I can see as far as where we are today, in my opinion.
Oh, okay. Being a little facetious here.
Now the downside is every time I hear a newborn baby cry, I don't hear a newborn baby in a bundle of joy. I'm hearing another nail in our ecological coffins here, because this planet is way too overpopulated now, and no one seems to be able to get a handle on it. And that's starting to bother me, because if we stress the environment, to the breaking point.
But do you think there has ever been a time, with the possible exception of if believe in Genesis, Adam and Eve's week, do you think there's ever been a time on this planet where that has not been the case? Where the planet has been absolutely stretched to the max for the times with people?
No, it's starting to happen now.
I'm saying I think it's always been the case. That the planet has always had as many people on it as it could possibly, for those times, support. See, let me give you an example. 20 years ago, if you got 100 bushels of corn out of an acre of land in Iowa, you were doing damn good. Today, you can get 200, 225 in some cases.
Yes.
Okay, so the land is producing twice as much food as it did 20 years ago, 10 times as much food as it did 50 years ago.
Right. Well, now some of the things, farming techniques are improved and so forth, but still, where does that soil come from in the first place? And the other thing is just for an example, if let's say somehow you could not flush your toilet for a week, you could not send out the trash for a week. You could not wash. You could not let go of your dirty dishwater for a week. Can you imagine, just by sheer volume, how much one person could create of all of that?
Well, certainly it wasn't that long ago that we could easily measure it.
Right, and all I'm saying is everybody seems to think they have an unalienable right that you just flush your toilet and the problem's gone. You just create all kinds of pollution.
But just a handful of years ago, everybody used to think they had an inalienable right to throw it out the window into the open gutter. But man, technology, call it whatever you want, grew along with the problem. And first of all, we covered up the sewers and just kind of let it drain down, and then we figured out ways to reprocess the waste. I think that we have always been to the absolute max populated. We have always been populated to the absolute max on this planet, I think.
Well, we've never reached the population we're at now, and all I'm saying is the seas are being fished out. What I'm trying to say to you is we're. Don't you think we're pushing our luck?
I think we've always been pushing our luck, is what I'm saying. Not being understood.
Well, yeah, I mean, sure, we conquer all these new frontiers, these new challenges that come our way, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Okay, but now myself, okay, let's just say we can feed everybody. Let's say the population doubles. Would you want to live on a planet that's that crowded?
We have never been able to feed everybody. We're not able to feed everybody today. We never have been. When we had 1 billion people on the planet, we couldn't feed them. Now we have 5 billion people on the planet, we still can't feed everybody. Roughly about the same percentage, too, by the way. If I'm not mistaken on this, I think it's roughly the same percentage of people are, in essence, hungry today that were hungry 500 years ago.
Well, just assuming that we do put off ecological disaster, would you want to live in a place that was so crowded that your movements would be restricted?
Well, we talk about ecological disaster. What's ecological disaster? I would imagine that in the eyes of the people who came to this continent from Europe 500 years ago, we've just totally destroyed it. beyond repair, irreparable damage. They could not begin to conceive of how the land has been raped and pillaged. Same thing in Europe. It's a living, growing planet. I don't pretend to be a scientist or an ecologist. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen. But I know that nature seems to have a way of dealing with things, even man. And when it gets to a point where nature feels as though it can't handle it anymore, it'll reverse the situation on us. It'll take care of us. I don't think we can destroy this planet, except possibly with nuclear weapons.
Well, no. Nature will have the last word on it. Don't you worry about that. But do we really have to push it to that point? You know, do we really have to do it? That's all I'm asking. Nature will.
Well, what do you want to do? What do you want to do?
Somehow bring the overpopulation issue, in front of everybody, not just pointy-headed intellectuals, but, I mean, man,
Well, then who do you want to tell not to have kids?
Everybody. I'm not pointing my finger at Asians or anything else, man. I mean, it's everybody.
Well, we don't have any great population problem here. We got lots of room here.
Well, for the time being.
Population problems are in South America and in Asia. You know that. So it's not really in Europe. There's not that big a deal. Europe, by the way, much more densely populated than we are, and they get along just fine.
For the time being. See, I'm thinking of the future here.
Well, there's not tremendous population growth in Europe. The problem is in South America and Asia. You know it as well as I do. So what are we going to do? Do you want to tell some South American not to have kids?
Well,
and who are you to tell that South American not to have kids?
Yeah, no, I see. The thing is I don't really know what to do, because the mindset in everyone is that if I'm physically able to have children, then by God I will.
Well, but you see, the people in Asia and South America who are populating at the highest rates, they're not doing it because they like kids. That's their security.
Right, I understand that.
You know, that's the way they make their living.
Well, whatever the reasons, no matter where you go on the globe, whatever the reasons, it all amounts to the same thing.
Okay, so here we are, roughly 1.5, 2 billion people on the face of the earth who are doing reasonably well, and then something in the neighborhood of 3.5 billion people on the face of the earth who ain't doing so good at all. As a matter of fact, who have a real rough time, and one of the ways that they try to ensure for their own security is by having children. Where are we supposed to come up with the wherewithal and the funding to go in and help these poor people in South America and Asia out so that they don't have to keep having kids?
I don't know.
Well, I don't think there is any way.
See,
I think nature has addressed this problem before on numerous occasions, and in essence, nature either has, wars. Well, actually, nature doesn't bring wars, does it? But either wars come up, or famines, or earthquakes, or something like that. And maybe it's kind of a waste of time to sit around and intellectualize about
Well,
it.
you know, the housewife in India has the right, she feels she has the right to go out and cut firewood for miles and miles around, and millions of them are doing it. So they're, they're getting defoliated over there. Okay, you've got the right to get in your car and turn the key and belch out all kinds of stuff into the atmosphere. And then when you wear out your tires, you have a right to have more tires. You have a right for more motor oil, more gasoline. So I mean, all I'm saying, is we're all guilty of degrading the environment, and the more and more people. Let's say you have some kids, and they feel they have a right to have a condo on the beach. Well, all the condos are full, so we just take an unpopulated stretch of beach, the last one in Florida, and build condos on it, because your kids feel that they have the money and the right to have a condo on the beach. Does that make it right?
Well, no, it doesn't make it right, but I have every confidence in the world that at some point, probably well within my lifetime, there will be a storm that will come back and give us a lot of open beachfront again. As for that woman in India, there's not a hell of a lot I can do about it, one way or the other. If she is stupid enough to go out and take all the firewood from around her house and leave herself with nothing, there's nothing I can do. I can intellectualize about it till I'm blue in the face, but it doesn't change anything. Mm-hmm. All I can do is to make things as pleasant for myself, my family, those immediately around me as I can possibly do. I can't worry about everybody on the planet.
Well,
I wish I could, but I can't.
It'll come home to roost. Don't worry. It will. Maybe not in your lifetime, but it will.
I guess that's just the way it was intended to be.
I think so. Because we are mammals, and mammals cannot control their own numbers. Something else has to do it for them.
I mean, I don't want to live in a land, I don't want to live in a world where I'm told whether or not I can have children. I mean, what more basic human right is there? I don't want to live in that kind of a society, do you?
Well, considering the alternatives, we better start thinking of something. Because the alternative isn't going to be nice when it happens.
I still don't want to be told.
Well,
I don't want to turn... I wouldn't... If you were to turn over that much power to the state, I mean, the ultimate power, the right to procreate, if you were to turn that power over to the state, just think what else you'd be turning over to them. I mean, in that case, I don't know that I want to live.
Well, I can see the day when they throw a bushel of corn out in the street and said, okay, y'all kill each other for it because that's all there is.
Oh, now come on. I mean, I've gone along with you to this point in the conversation, assuming that perhaps, while being a little bit misguided, that you were at least sincere. But when you say things like you can envision the day when they throw a bushel of corn out into the street, now, my friend.
Hey, 20, 40, 100 years ago, people could not envision the things that are happening today.
Well,
crack cocaine and stuff like that,
I beg your pardon, sir. Cocaine has been a big problem in this country for hundreds of years. It's a cyclical problem, and yes, it may be far greater today than it was before, but it was a very, very serious problem back in the teens in this country. A damn serious problem, along with heroin and marijuana.
Okay, well, let's find other examples. But I mean, the magnitude of the problems we're facing today. People, 100 years ago couldn't believe that there'd be such days as the kinds of nuclear bombs and things like that. And all I'm saying is today we can't even conceptualize the things that are going to happen. Not me with my gloom and doom, and not you, not nobody.
Well, there's gloom and doom, and then there's gloom and doom, but throwing bushels of corn out into the streets and waiting for the populace to fight over it goes a little bit beyond gloom and doom, but...
Who's to say it can't happen? Who's to absolutely say it can't happen?
Me. And between noon and 3, I rule the world.
I wish you were right. I really do wish that everything
right.
would be
Between noon and 3, I rule the world. The magnificent Lassiter.
Oh, yeah. You get no argument from me there.
Your doctor has a new treatment that may help prevent an awful lot.
His voice is still, but his thoughts don't have to be.
That's right. You're absolutely right. And that refers back to point 1 that I made. And that's about it. That might be selfish, and that might be a little self-serving, but damn it, I miss Dick Norman a lot. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
You have a good day.
You too. Take care. By the way, Al at Amalie, Florida Lubricants Incorporated, thank you for the Tom's Orange slices there. Greatly appreciated, and I might point out, Al, that it's more than David Maseko did. I'll remember that, David. Bradenton, hi, Bradenton. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
I'm a first-time caller, and I just wanted to say that I'm glad that I live in this country and that I'm free. And I think that the people in this world should quit feeling sorry for themselves and complaining about what they don't have and try to do something about it and be happy for what they do have.
Which people did you have in mind?
Everybody. I mean, it's like the one lady that called in where her husband owned their own lawn service business, and that they couldn't afford to have a baby, and complaining about the people on welfare. There's a lot of people in this world that don't have no choice. I mean, 3 years ago, I made a decision in my life to have a child. I was divorced, and I already had a son. And before she was born, I had everything paid for. Everything was fine. I was well on my way to being financially secure and everything. My daughter was born with many critical problems, and the bottom of my world fell out, and I lost everything. And, eventually, my daughter now receives an SSI check every month. But I'm not in a position that I am taking from the government what I don't need. And I just want to say that everybody on welfare is not, taking what they don't need.
Well, I think a lot of people might ask you just what gave you a right without really having the financial aspects totally secured to have an additional child in this world.
Okay, well, before I made the decision to become pregnant, I was financially secure. But when you're talking, my daughter had five major heart defects.
Well, you couldn't have been financially secure because you apparently didn't have enough health insurance to cover any eventuality.
Oh, no. Okay, when my daughter was born, the insurance that I had, after $5,000, they paid 100%. Okay, but my health insurance was through where I worked, and last year they sold out, which in return the insurance was changed. Okay? I mean, my insurance still pays 80%. Okay, and through the SSI they pay the other 20%. But what I'm trying to tell these people is that it can happen to anyone.
Well, I appreciate that. I think most people do.
Yeah, I mean, they just, be happy with what they have. Be happy that they have healthy.
But I think you quite misunderstand if you want to refer to that specific caller. That specific caller wasn't so much bitching and moaning about people getting welfare. That particular caller was talking about the outrageous cost of insurance.
Oh, yeah. But still, I mean, there's not...
Well, I think it rather unfair of you, who, and I'm not trying to be cruel here, but damn it, I and the rest of the people who listening to this program are basically, supporting you, or at least not supporting, but subsidizing you. And I think it rather unfair of you, and a little bit thoughtless to complain that someone else is pointing out that, damn it, I'm trying to work, but I can't even afford insurance. I'm trying to pay my own way, but the costs are so astronomical, and there's nobody to help me.
Hey, I mean, I'm not complaining about that.
That's what it sounded like to me.
I pay my insurance out of my pocket, but they need to realize, she says that she doesn't have insurance, right? Okay.
She said she can't afford it. Nobody, the price of it is prohibitive.
All right, but she can't afford it. What's going to happen if her husband goes out to work and he hurts himself and there's no income coming in? There's nothing that they can do. They can't pay the doctor bills. Where are they going to turn to? They're going to turn to the state. Right?
Yes, they're going to turn to the state. I will try one more time to point out to you what that particular discussion was about. That particular discussion, my understanding of it, was that at times in this country, people who are trying to avoid government subsidies, government help, find it almost impossible. Hard-working people with decent incomes are being priced out of many different markets, including health care and insurance, and that's what the conversation was about. I don't think she was taking cheap shots at you because you run into some hard times or because somebody else has run into some hard times. I mean, there isn't anyone who, in any position of influence or authority, who would take away from you what you're being given. It's just that we're reaching a point in this country where millions upon millions of middle-class families are being priced out of markets. Yeah. And there is no safety net for them. The only alternative to those people is to completely fall out of bed. And it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way. People who go out and work should be able to supply their families with the basic elements necessary, such as health care.
Yes, I agree. I've always thought that maybe the government should get together and come up with some kind of program that there was a nationwide insurance policy and that like a certain amount would be deducted out of everyone's check.
I can't afford it. I'm sorry. I cannot afford to pay for the insurance for 37 million people, and I don't see why I have to.
Oh, no, but I mean, you would be getting your insurance, too. You're not
I think what we should be doing,
else.
I think what we should be doing is rather than coming up with a way to pay for 37 million people, I think what we should be doing is taking a little bit closer look at the health industry itself and figuring out why there are 37 million people that can't afford to use it.
Yeah. I agree with that. It's just everybody, if the doctors make a mistake nowadays, they go sue happy.
That's part of the problem, but it certainly isn't all of it. Thank you very much. Well, I'm trying to be polite. Clearwater, you're on there at 970 WFLA.
Yeah, Bob, I just want to know, have we made it to the promised land?
Sir, I'm not really in the mood for esoteric questions.
Well, this is the whole thing, the utopia society, the promised land. I'm not trying to be facetious or whatever. I'm just looking at that United States being the promised land.
Who said it was, sir? Oh, hello? Well, I guess he decided he didn't want to continue the conversation. That was his choice. 990-9352 in Hillsborough, 461-9352 in Pinellas. Hi, Tampa. You're on the air. Hello, Tampa.
Yeah, hello.
Hi.
For a long time, I wanted to call up and say how much I enjoy you. Only TJ always says what I have to say, but so much better. But now to get to the point, what I really enjoy, the different status of women. I am about a generation older than that young man that spoke before news.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was young, when my brother was 16, he learned to drive a car, and for my 18th birthday, I got a bicycle. He went to college. I didn't. I'd get married. So I'm very glad for the women of today.
I don't necessarily think I totally agree with you. I agree with you in principle, but I'm not sure that I agree with you in essence.
Oh?
Because of what I was saying to that young man that you're referring to, that conversation, that yes, I think it's fantastic that men and women have options available to them today that were not available to them just a generation or two ago. However, with those options have come a whole new set of problems that are mind-boggling problems, with role reversals and the breakdown of the family unit and so forth and so on. You know, I know it's contradicting myself. I'm glad that the opportunities are there. I'm sorry that people are taking advantage of them is in essence what I'm saying. But do you understand what I'm saying? Do you
I
see?
understand what you're saying, but
I think it's a travesty that you got a bicycle for your 18th birthday and your brother got a driver's license. That's absurd. It's crazy.
Sure it is.
But unfortunately, now the girls have driver's licenses and cars when they're 18 years old, it's causing problems.
You know, what I don't like is all the problems with government like Iran-Contra and the savings and loans and the Pentagon scandal and the farmers, they closed down after the election was over. And then the other day in the paper, I read that they're going to have a problem with the banks because of the way the Reagan administration didn't pay attention to foreign loans.
Well, I'm not so sure that things like Iran-Contra are new. I'm very worried about Iran-Contra, too, but not because it's happening. I think it's always happened. I'm worried about it because people don't seem to give a damn.
Well, you know, that's what my son and I were talking about last night. He said, well, it's just like Hitler's Germany. Somebody takes over and nobody thinks boo. They just, I don't know.
Well, I think the analogy is a little bit extreme, although there is some truth in it. We have reached a point where people they don't want to be bothered with administering their own lives. They don't want to be bothered with their responsibility for anything, so they're totally willing to let somebody else have it. And as long as the guy says, God bless you, here's my Bible, he must be a good guy, and his intentions must be the best, so get off his back. We've never been like that before in this country, and that is a little bit scary.
Yeah,
I hope that one changes in the real hurry.
Yeah, I always enjoy you so much, and I usually agree with you so I don't bother calling.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye-bye. 990-9352 in Hillsborough, 461-9352. Unbelievable sometimes you people are. I do declare. It's perhaps what it is. Perhaps what it is that this is one of those shows, and it happens every now and then, this is one of those shows where all of you good folks out there who think you just know for sure where the hell Lassiter is coming from, and that Lassiter is this and Lassiter is that, and so easily labeled, find out that really Lassiter's a pretty damned old-fashioned kind of guy, that maybe you aren't that far apart with, but you just get suckered in time and time and time again and don't sit down and listen to what it is that I have to say. This past week has really been amusing. I have received 3 different letters, and they were definitely different letters. All of them started out the exact same way. All of them, surprisingly, were about the same length, 2.5, 3 pages, and all of them concluded the same way. The first 2 or 3 paragraphs in all 3 of these letters from different people, different parts of the Bay, all started out by saying, I really used to like you, or words to that effect. But recently, you have become this, you have become that, you brag too much about that, I can't stand it, I'm not going to listen to you anymore. That was the first 3 paragraphs, and then the remainder of the letter was on Ted Bundy. And all 3 letters listened to a program that I did talking about the carnival atmosphere around Ted Bundy's execution. All three people assumed that I was opposed to executing Mr. Bundy. All three people assumed that I was opposed to capital punishment, which I've told you time and time again I am not. I'm just opposed to the way that you guys implement it. I'd like to see it bigger. But every now and then we have a show like today, don't we? You ought to be ashamed of yourselves. Clearwater, hi there, Clear. You're on the air at 970 pity poo. Clear couldn't hold on. Largo, let's try your line. Hi there, Larg.
Hello.
Yeah.
This is Dave from Largo. How you doing, Bob?
Oh, fine.
I'm enjoying your show so far today, except for that one caller that previously told us that the world's all going to go into a pot of whatever. And
well, I think we cleared him up and sent him off to the Grand Prix car wash. He'll be a much, much better human being for
I'd
it.
like to offer him a euthanasia shot or something like that. I'm sure, he would be one of the first people willing to decrease the population of the earth so we all have more to eat.
No, I beg your pardon. He's a very sincere young man. He just hasn't thought about the implications of what he's suggesting.
Well, he reminds me of the people who are concerned about the world all being blown up by nuclear bombs.
There's not a damn thing that you or I can do about starving people in China. Frankly, there's nothing that you and I can do about starving people on College Hill except to treat everybody with dignity, to pay fair prices for goods and services, to be honest.
Exactly.
And, that's all we can do.
That's right.
We can't wear hair shirts for people who are not as fortunate as we are.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to comment on what you were talking about earlier. What did we appreciate in the 80s and the last, 10 years is what you're talking about?
Well, the times that you live in. For some people, that's a half a century. For other people, it's a blink of the eye.
Well, for me, what I really appreciate in the 80s is the technology that we have. And I'm not talking about TVs and stereos and VCRs. I mean, that's just part of it. But, I'm talking more on the medical technology of what we have. I have a son who's 5.5 months. Well, he's a year old now. But at 5.5 months, he had open heart surgery. Now, 10 years ago, he would have simply have died from that. And I think it's absolutely fantastic that we have that kind of technology. And at the rate that the technology is going, we might eventually find some of these answers to these problems that he's talking about.
You sound like a rational man, and you sound, I hope, like a man who's going to understand the theoretical dilemma that I'm about to propose to you. I'm delighted that your son made it through the operation, that medical technology was able to keep that boy alive for your sake, and I promise you I am delighted.
Oh, yeah.
But there are an awful lot of people, and possibly myself included, who might argue with you that we are, in essence, when we do something like that, tampering with nature. That the fine balance, the fine ecological balance on this planet requires a certain amount of trees to fall, of deer to drop over, of human beings not to make it.
Well, by the same token, too, as much as we're playing with the ecology and as much as we are doing to damage it, like you said, we're creating a lot of problems ourselves, too, such as heart problems and physical problems and cholesterol and everything else that we're bringing into our diets. So, by the same token, the amount of cures that we're coming up with, we're also coming up with newer forms and more bizarre forms of dying. You understand what I'm saying?
I understand where you're leading, but I don't think that you're necessarily correct. What you're saying is that we're living longer, and consequently, we're dying of a greater variety of things. Things exactly. That, cholesterol wasn't that big a problem when you were dropping over when you were 40 because you worked yourself to death pulling a plow.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like cholesterol didn't exist or the hardening of the arteries didn't exist until recent times. It's just that other things got you first.
Exactly. So, I think it has its checks and balances. I think it does balance out. Like you said, we're getting old people to live a lot longer, which is playing with the ecology and everything. I mean, go down to Kennett City sometime or, down to Paso Grill or something and watch the old people down there. They're getting older and older.
But that's the whole problem because we're not set up to deal with these old people. We live differently. These old people are sitting in downtown St. Petersburg, abandoned and alone and miserable in many cases. And is that good? Granted, fantastic. We can now keep them alive until they're 80 or 85 with almost routine frequency.
I've been listening to some
But what do we do with them?
I've been listening to some of these programs that come on, and these people talk about, should we repair the old people? Should we make them live longer? Should we give this person a heart transplant or that person a heart transplant versus an older person, versus a younger person is what I'm trying to say. And, I sometimes wonder, if instead of, like naturally we are saving babies and everything, and we're giving them chances to live where years and years ago they were dying. But like you say, we're allowing older people to live much longer, and we're actually ending up keeping them alive too long.
Well, I'm not so sure that we should be giving anybody heart transplants, because one of the problems that we're having is the procedure, the staff, the facilities necessary are so outrageously expensive that in essence what we are doing is we're making people who are having gallbladder operations subsidize transplant operations. Exactly. My point is we're bringing up the cost of ordinary medicine to subsidize these very exotic procedures, and I wonder if maybe we should be giving anybody a heart transplant.
I kind of sometimes wonder, too, if...
of course, if I was the one who was eligible for one, I would probably look at it quite differently.
Mm-hmm. I sometimes wonder, too, if there's a possibility bringing into the picture this malpractice insurance and everything, if that's what at least 50% of the cause of bringing up our cost of medicine and all that. I mean, true, we're developing new technologies and equipment is expensive and all that, but we're also, by the same token, cutting our own legs off by turning around and suing doctors and driving up health insurance costs. Because who's going to pay for that? It's
Good
you
question.
and me.
I have no answer, but I thank you.
It's you and it's me.
Thank you, my friend.
14 minutes now before 3 o'clock.
It's a guy that meant a lot to me, a guy that helped me think, a guy that entertained me, whatever it might have been. Dick Norman and his family decided they didn't want a funeral, they didn't want flowers, they didn't want any type of memorial service. So we here at this radio station would like to keep Dick Norman's memory alive somehow. Life being what it is, most people in a few months will forget the man's name, forget that they ever heard him. That's the way life is. It goes on. It's the way life is for most of us. It goes on. But every now and then you can do something special to help keep a memory alive. We have decided to establish a scholarship endowment fund in Dick Norman's name. If you were one of the people who felt touched by this man, if you were one of the people who felt entertained, provoked, and would like to be part of it, we invite you to be. Please, your contributions can be sent. Checks payable to the Dick Norman Memorial Fund, care of this radio station, WFLA, 801 East Jackson Street, Tampa, 33602. 33602. Clearwater High, Clear, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Yeah, there's only one thing that amazes me with all the technology that we have today, that you were talking about Dick Norman and that his life could not be saved with all the technology that we have, and I'm just sorry that it wasn't you in the car, you big fat pig.
Oh. You, sir, are perhaps the lowest possible scum that could possibly walk the face of the earth. Because you, sir, would try to use a dead man to get to me. You, sir, who have utterly no feeling, compassion whatsoever for Dick Norman or his family, who may, by the way, be listening, would attempt to get to me by using the memory of a dead man. Of all the disgusting subhuman pigs that I've spoken with in the last 3.5 years in this business, sir, I don't think any of them come close to you. I mean, you are not big enough, sir, to lick the heels of anybody that I've ever called a subhuman pig on this show. You're below them. Madeira Beach, your turn at 970 WFLA.
I have answers for a majority of the problems with little people. Unions. Lassiter.
Yeah?
What do you think of unions?
What do you mean, what do I think of unions, sir? That's kind of a rather broad question.
Well, down here, there's no union for anyone.
Well, yes, there are.
Except for the big people, like almost yourself and officers.
No, sir, I have no union, sir.
You don't have a union?
No, not in this state, no.
Well, right, exactly, that's what I'm saying. Now, these people that don't have health and dental and all that good stuff, if a union would walk in, they'd have that in 6 months. They'd have wages, it would make Florida a much better state.
Not necessarily.
Well, I've worked under unions, and from the kind of salaries I'm making now compared to unions, it's a whole different ball game. I can barely afford to put food in my mouth with what I'm making, you know. $7 an hour. I can't buy a house, nothing. With a union, I have everything going for me. I get loans through a union.
Oh, no, I beg your pardon, sir. A lot of people who work for unions earn a lot less than $6 or $7 an hour. It's no guarantee of high wages.
The benefits are there.
Not always.
They fight. Eventually, you will make a good wage.
Not necessarily, sir.
Termination, you're not terminated. They just don't fire you on the spot because they don't like you or something.
Very few people get fired because they're not liked, sir.
You'd be surprised. There's a lot of...
No, I wouldn't be surprised, sir. I'm 43 years old. I've been to the county fair. You know, I've been around.
Haven't you seen unreasonable firings for just no reason whatsoever?
Yes, both in union and non-union places. Yes, I have.
And in union circumstances, I can't say I've seen it, but non-union, I have definitely.
Well, I can say I've seen it, sir. I have.
All right, Bob.
It's no guarantee. It's you're being as bad as the other side with a what appears to be a short-sighted, simple-minded solution to a very, very complex problem.
That'll help for the time being until something's done, I would think.
Won't do its dancing, sir. It'll make things far worse than it is to just unionize overnight.
No,
it would bring the place to a halt. It would bring the economy to an absolute halt.
It would raise the economy.
No, sir. It would bring it to a stop.
Well, where do you see a stop?
Work stoppages, sir. All these people who think that all they have to do to solve their problems is join a union.
No,
that's not the answer.
They work, though. You work. You have to work, of course. Or you're not.
Sir, if you're not willing to strike, then your employer's not going to bargain with you and give you all of these things, is he?
Striking? Yeah, they're striking. I've seen
right.
striking.
Well, sir, if you're not willing to strike, your employer's not going to suddenly start paying you a hell of a lot more and getting you all kinds of bennies.
Of course, they're going to get... Yeah, but they will strike, and they do get...
Oh, and what happens when you strike, sir?
You get what you hold out.
You don't get paid. Your employer doesn't make a profit.
And so he needs you back.
Well, maybe.
Maybe. Of course he does.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, he goes out of business. See, the problem
he can hire other people, sir.
The little people don't want
he can hire other people.
The little people don't want the union.
No, sir, the problem is that you don't know what in the hell you're talking about. That's what the problem is. The problem is you think there's a nice, easy answer to everything. There ain't.
Isn't.
That's the problem. No, sir, on this show it ain't.
Thanks.
Bye.